Mallory and we have Brevin, and I think, you're right in the sense where we have to utilize them this week, especially Mallory. We saw him that play against Louisville where, he went up for, what was it, 60 yards, that run that he had?
Yeah, it was like 60, 70. It was huge.
Yeah, he's been targeted twice this year. Only twice. One of them was that touchdown against Louisville, and then we didn't see him again after that. So I think, we got to use him over the field just to take advantage, not over the field, but over the middle of the field, just to take advantage, of those guys, those linebackers playing so downhill.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that we come out, in heavier sets all game. It's going to be rainy. I think, if we line up in bigger formations with both tight ends on the field, just start running the ball and pounding it. I've been predicting that we're going to see a lot more quarterback designed runs for this game. I kind of feel like that's the last thing that we're waiting to see from Rhett Lashley. I mean, that's actually been a huge bread and butter concept to the offenses he runs is having a mobile quarterback. And we have the most mobile quarterback. We just haven't seen him much. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I would really like to see that, and then that just opens up so many doors when you have two amazing pass-catching tight ends. You have three great running backs. You're lining up in those big sets. So you can hand it off to a back. You can do a quarterback-designed run, and then your tight ends are going to be open all day too. So
yeah,
it'll be really interesting to see the direction that we take it. But I'm curious to hear what you think we need to do to win.
The tight ends, like we just went over, those guys need to be in the game. And I think you're right about De'Eric and design runs. We haven't seen a lot of that outside of some generic stuff. Like we've seen him take a snap and, just go right outside, like on a sweep-like play. We've seen that from him. We haven't seen anything, too creative with the design runs from him. So I think we'll see that, and, it needs to be his best game. Like, we need to have De'Eric King's best game. Even though he's played mistake-free football for the most part, like, this is a team. And it's going to be – I don't think if the rain is going to help them. It's also not going to help us. Like, but De'Eric needs to have his biggest game. And we need to win on the defensive line, obviously. Quincy Roche has been very good at, just getting to the quarterback in general. Not necessarily sacks, even though he has, the team lead in sacks, or he's tied for it. But he's going up probably against the best guy he'll face all season, Jackson Carman, he's a first-day NFL guy, a first-day draft guy. He's huge, 6'5", 345, and his first sack he allowed was last game against Virginia. So we got to win there. The whole offensive line is pretty strong. They're young, but they get better each game.
Yeah. So I know that they're wide receivers. I know that, they're very talented. I really like Amari Rodgers, but the rest of them are a little bit more unproven. How do you see us shutting down Amari Rodgers with guys like DJ Ivy, Al Blades, and then the rest of our secondary going up against their receiving core?
Well, we have to win up. We have to win up front because the last two games, DJ and Al have both gotten way better, but that's been because they haven't had much to deal with because the front seven's just in the backfield eating everybody alive. So I think we're gonna need our best game from DJ. We're gonna have to. He's going up against his old teammate. He's got to be up close. He's best when he can just get dirty and get his hands on guys up front. I know you hear that a lot because it's true. Even the touchdown he allowed against UAB, I mean, he was there. He was nicely trailing the guy. He just didn't get his head around. So, I like DJ a lot despite some of the bad things you hear. And Al's been consistent. He allowed, I think, one touchdown, which really it was like a tight end screen, and he was responsible in coverage for that area. So. I think those guys are going to play strong, and I think I posted something about DJ Ivy yesterday about a breakdown of his stats as he's gotten better. Mm-hmm. I got some responses about how it doesn't matter who we're playing against because it doesn't matter because of who we played against, and the real test is coming against Clemson, which is true. I mean, that's true. But I mean, this is good for our guys' confidence going in. Where they haven't allowed much lately. They just basically it all comes down to the front seven. The front seven can win. It's going to make those guys' job easier. If not, then they're just going to. I don't think it'll bode well for them.
Yeah. I want to ask you, because obviously, Quincy Roche and Jalen Phillips have been playing very, very well, and I'm very impressed by what Nesta Silvera has done, especially against Florida State. The dude was absolutely everywhere. My other question is the other defensive tackles. Jared Harrison Hunt is tied for the lead in sacks. He's been very good. I feel like we haven't heard anything at all of John Ford. What do you think of his production, and would you rather see a guy like Harrison Hunt, get the starting role, or do you think it's necessary to have those big guys like John Ford, Jordan Miller to take those double teams and everything like that?
Well, I think with Ford, like you're saying, it's necessary for him to take those double teams only because we play with two true linebackers on defense. We have the third guy who would be a striker position. That'll be Gilbert or, whoever's backing him up, depending on that, Brian Ballum. And I know Keontra Smith as well. So those guys, they're small, speedy guys. They tackle well, but, they're not true, linebackers. We'll have McLeod and Brooks on the field or 44 on the field as well, BJ. So I think with Ford, he's necessary on certain downs and situations only to eat up that space. But I like how Harrison Hunt is coming along and how he just, whenever he's on the field, he seems to stick out, right? Like, when he's on the field.
Absolutely.
So I think as the season goes longer, as it goes along, we'll see more of him. And eventually I think he'll be the starter right next to Nesta. So I think you're right there.
Yeah, I had high hopes for John Ford coming into the season just because he's a senior and everything like that. And I know he doesn't have the pass rushing skills of a guy like Harrison Hunt or Nesta, but our run defense has been very, very shaky, honestly.
Yeah.
We gave up over 200 yards to Louisville. Hawkins had about 165 yards that game. FSU seemed like they were able to run the ball on us. How do you see us going up against a guy like Travis Etienne and a very powerful Clemson running attack? Because in my opinion, the first thing you have to do going up against Clemson is shut down the running game, especially if it's going to be running and everything like that. So how do you see our run defense bouncing back and improving, or do you see more of the same?
I think we'll give up some yards, running just because we're playing against the best running back and the best quarterback in the nation. Like you don't see that every week. Like, and Lawrence is such a stellar runner. Like, he'll take off and he takes off for chunks. I think he has like 4 or 5 rushes this year that are beyond 10 yards. So, he gets chunk yards too. I think the delayed blitzes kind of hurt us in the run game. Sometimes we'll get caught in the wrong position and you'll just see a guy break for 15, 20 yards. And you'll see that consistently just because of those delayed blitzes. So if it were up to me, I would key in on a guy like Etienne the whole game only because he's so much of that offense. He's second in receiving and first in rushing, and it's entirely out of the backfield. I think we'll see a Bubba Bolden, tasked with trying to contain him a lot. I think we'll see some of Gilbert Fearson spying Lawrence maybe a bit. We're going to have to do. Who would you want to take away? If you could take away Lawrence or Etienne, who do you want to take from the game?
I personally think that you're making a great point about taking Etienne away, just because as you mentioned, he's so heavily involved in the passing attack, and so just if you really key in on him and stop him from doing much, then you're taking away half of their passing game. Or exactly. A third of their passing game as well as their run game. So I think you hit the nail on the head there, man. But one thing with that is Bubba Bolden's having a great season. However, when I watched, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, when I've watched, whenever Bubba's been isolated in man-to-man coverage, it hasn't always gone well for us. As good as he's played, I feel like he excels in zone coverage, and run support, and being a safety as opposed to being keyed in on a guy man-to-man. I mean, we saw Tutu Atwell, gash him a few times for yards and even a touchdown. So I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, with Bubba, you hit it right on the head with the zone and the man stuff. Because this year, I mean, in coverage, he's given up, even though it's not a lot of yards, a lot of catches. You'll see him behind there trailing the guy. I think he's been targeted 11 times this year, and he's allowed 9 catches. That's almost every time you throw the ball to him when he's responsible in coverage, that guy's going to come down with the ball. So I think you hit it right on the head with the man coverage. He's we kind of ask a lot of him, though, when we do put him in man. So I can see where he has an argument against where it wouldn't be so bad. Against Louisville, when he was allowing those catches, like, he was there to make the stop immediately. And some of them were behind the line.
Yeah, I mean, that is a good point. I didn't love that Atwell. I mean, I walked away from the game. I didn't really fault Bolden because, I mean, he was only put in those situations because our corner play had been so poor up to that point.
Yeah.
And so, so I don't really fault him when that's not really his thing, but we're asking him to do that because of other deficiencies on defense. Yeah. However, I did walk away feeling like Atwell kind of ate his lunch that day when they went head to head. And so the last thing I want to do is ask him to do that same exact thing for a better player in Travis Etienne, who's maybe not as fast as Atwell, but is bigger. And I mean, by all accounts is a higher graded pro prospect, and he's a more decorated college player as well. So I have to say that does kind of worry me. If we do task Bubba Bolden, like, hey, your responsibility is to shut down Etienne, and you're going to be in man coverage a lot of the game.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a team effort.
Yeah,
tackling that guy. He seems like his like, whenever he gets a little off balance, like, his feet immediately go back, like they're magnetized to the ground or something. Like, his balance is so crazy, and I don't think he gets enough credit for how much power he runs with.
Yeah. Oh, he looks like a pinball when he's bouncing in between the line. You just can't bring him down. I mean, almost all of his highlights are, him bouncing off 6 or 7 linemen and then going 60 yards down the sideline after that. So
yeah, I thought Lorenzo Lingard was going to be a Travis Etienne. That's what I expected out of Lingard.
Yeah, well, I've heard on the practice field he is, but I don't know. We've never seen him in a game before. So
he's very good on Green Tree. Okay, so I want to ask some over-unders for you. We get the turnover chain out 2 times. Do you say over or under?
I'll say over.
Oh, all right.
Wow.
Hey,
I mean, it's raining. It's
4 sacks for Trevor Lawrence. Are you going over or under?
4?
Yeah.
Under.
Under? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that is that's going to be a huge key because, I mean, we've heard all offseason, even without Gregory Rousseau, this defensive line can be elite. I think this game, especially with, a solid to unexperienced Clemson offensive line, you have to take advantage of that. You have to. Yeah. I mean, if you can get to Trevor 4 times, or just – it's not even bringing him down for a sack, but just Jalen Phillips, he's been great at just getting in the quarterback's face and causing that kind of pressure, but that has to be there all night. Like, we cannot afford – because if Trevor Lawrence has time, that dude can pick apart our secondary.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, what do you want to do with a guy like that? Do you want to blitz him, or do you want to try to get there with the front 4? Because even if you do blitz him, last year – just against the blitz, there was 16 touchdowns. He was 70%, and he had no picks. So even when they are blitzing him, he's still accurate. Like, that guy's a prototype.
Yeah.
He's just so damn good.
He really is.
It's hard to game plan against a team like this because on one hand, we're saying shut down Travis Etienne, but it's hard when you have the best running back and quarterback